Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I am Axion.
I'm Sit.
We're continuing playing through Pokemon Christmas and discussing Terry Pratchett's Hogfather. So, this is a story about the local Discworld equivalent of Christmas.
And Kirlia has Christmas colors.
Yeah. When you think of Christmas, what are the first three things you think of?
Sleep, stress, snow.
That's fair.
You shouldn't ask that of a teacher.
That is completely fair. For me, personally, it would probably be Santa, time off work, so that would definitely include sleep, and gifts / get-togethers for giving gifts.
Okay, I probably should have rated Santa higher, but at this point, honestly, I have a countdown to when I can actually catch up on sleep.
So say we all.
Yeah, but I actually get a little bit of time to do so before I'm right back to pulling way too long of a workday, and never mind, I'm going off topic.
Anyway, the association with children, or with gifts, almost always eventually includes an association with children. Oh, you can buy balls here. That's cool. So...
Oh, that's rough.
yeah, I didn't know how to respond to that. So this association with children in many cultures often comes with an implication of an association with innocence.
Now, depending on how we want to define innocence, that's either true or...
Would you care to elaborate?
Alright, so innocence in the sense of has not yet learned better. Essentially, ignorance versus the lack of guilt. It is more true to say that children have not yet been taught everything that adults have, so in many cases they are indeed innocent. They have not yet felt the way around the world, they do not yet know things. Now, as to innocent in the sense of never did anything wrong, perfect angel, no. Absolutely not.
I don't know of anyone who seriously thinks that their kid is a perfect angel unless they're the kind of parent that thinks that they are a perfect angel, and that's a rabbit hole.
Let's talk about our favorite amendments. Right now, mine's the 5th.
But yes, the assumption of innocence with children tends to come from an implication that children are... Man, not the stone I want. Yes, children are not the stone I want. The assumption that children are unaware of the full scope of morality, and thus not truly capable of making the right kinds of informed decisions that would come to bear in moral decision-making.
Yeah, this I would say is a very, very large reason that we have the concept of, hi puppy, of being charged as a minor versus as an adult. As a minor, there is a grace given on the grounds of you probably didn't know better, or there should be some patience taken because you're still learning your way. Whereas as an adult, you should know better. You should be fully informed of what's wrong and right, and therefore we do not need to use kid gloves around you.
And if you don't, that is a failure on your part rather than something that can be excused as something beyond your capability. As an adult, it is assumed and understood that you have the ability to educate yourself, to make yourself aware of the situation that you're in and the consequences of your actions, and that if you choose to take an action, that you are responsible for the consequences of that action.
Yep, and if you take an action, you are restricted to only having a move that turn, so you might want to use it carefully. Sorry.
No, you're not.
Yeah. In Hogfather, it's rather clear that both of these are true simultaneously. Children are more innocent than many adults, but a lot of the time, these children know exactly what they're doing. We see this pretty firmly when we deal with the children that Susan is a governess for.
So I remember the girl's name is Twyla. I am blanking on the boy's name.
Gawain.
Go on. These children are fairly young, but Susan treats them with respect and talks to them more or less like adults. She's patient with them as far as knowing that they don't understand anything and that they're going to have questions. Don't understand everything, rather. I did not mean to say anything. They definitely understand several things and make that knowledge quite clear. So Susan understands that there are going to be things they don't understand, and that they're going to have questions, and that part of her job as a governess is to answer those questions. But she also understands that they are people capable of understanding and making decisions and learning and being talked to like people rather than the way many people talk to children.
Yep, and I finally found what I was looking for.
Okay.
Just the whole, Susan? Yes, Twyla? I'm afraid of the monster in the cellar, Susan. It's going to eat me up. What have I told you about trying to sound ingratiatingly cute, Twyla? You said I mustn't. You said exaggerated lisping is a hanging offense and I only do it to get attention.
Yep, stops immediately.
Yep, as soon as she's called on it, she immediately starts speaking properly. So, kids very often do know exactly what they're doing. They are by nature manipulative, but innocent of the fact that this is a bad thing.
Yep.
So,
they're mostly just judging it based on results. Does it get me what I want? And they don't yet fully understand why getting what they want shouldn't be the sole determinator of how to behave.
In fairness, some adults don't learn that.
Well, yes, that was kind of my point.
But yes, so what I was trying to get at is that innocence is not always a sign of purity and happy and goodness. It's just a sign of not knowing everything, not fully being aware of things, and in many cases, you can be innocent and still have a wealth of common sense and wisdom of how to apply yourself to get those results. Like, I have yet to find a child that does not yet have a game plan for every adult they meet. Like, kids could see you for like 30 seconds and they already have a measure of you. You know how I know this? Substitute teaching. Good lord, substitute teaching.
Let's say you have a lot more experience in this regard than I do because I'm not a teacher. I don't have
There is a reason that I basically said I would not sub for elementary school unless there was a dire need. I am not good with small children. Yeah, smaller kids are, I think, harder to deal with because they're so openly manipulative. Like, no shame at all about it. By the time they're older, they have to be slyer about it, so it's not as in-your-face obvious, so they might be getting away with some more of it, but it's generally harder and not as successful. They've lost the innocence that gives them the plausible deniability with it.
Yep. Which, once again, brings us back to the difference between innocence as lack of guilt and innocence as lack of understanding that makes certain behaviors understandable.
Yep, and this also comes into play when we get into the Tooth Fairy's realm. Because children do not have a comprehension of death, Death could not go there himself, and Susan's powers do not work there. People do not die in the Tooth Fairy's realm. They go somewhere else to do it, because all the children understand on a base level is they're gone. They're not here anymore. And we have talked about this. I'm sorry, it's really funny to watch this little bear icon just get swept away with the wind.
It's not a bear, it's a deer.
Well, it's a bear icon when it was flying, so meh. And yeah, everything in there is reinterpreted through the innocent eyes of a child that don't know any better. And in some cases, that's not as sweet and carefree as we tend to think, because remember what we talked about with Sensation of History? We make things less scary and more appropriate so it's more accessible for children.
Yep.
Everything that children remember is visceral, whether it's joy, whether it's fear. The nightmares they had as kids, like, they could tell you with the hindsight, like, let's use Sydney's for example. He was terrified of the 7-year-old kid, because he was 5 at the time and much smaller. He, as an adult, understands, oh, no, I could pick him up one-handed at this point, he's not a threat anymore.
Also, he's a wizard.
Yeah, but that's not what he saw. He saw, when he was dealing with that, he was facing it in the body of a child, as he was at the time. The innocence of his past informing the horrors that he saw there. And that's something that I think people overlook. There are so many aspects of childhood that are scary, like Disney. We'll keep going back to that. How many Disney villains were you terrified by as a kid? Or other childhood movies?
Let me think. I mean, I was a weird kid that wasn't scared by a lot of the things that scared other people. Like, I thought Maleficent turning into a dragon or Jafar turning into a giant cobra were just cool.
Yeah, but you see what I mean, though. Like, when we were kids, the villains did not generally pull their punches. You were allowed to be scared out of your wits. even as the moral guardians are like, oh, think of the children, that's too scary, ah! So oftentimes you do see watered down media because of that appeal to children's innocence. Children are not often as shielded as adults seem to think they are. And we've talked about this before whenever Think of the Children comes up in the context of a book. I'm gonna keep saying it until people remember it. If we made a movie about school that was accurate to how school children tended to behave when they thought the teachers weren't looking, it would be rated too high for them to legally watch.
Yep. Because kids are doing all of the stuff that we demand that kids not see in our movies. And...
Yep.
And this is how it's pretty much always been. And it's kind of why there's been such a push in more recent years to replace this sort of revulsion and repulsion rather of these ideas with education. That and test upon test upon test and study upon study upon study, clearly forming out a base of knowledge and education and understanding are better for the people, young people growing up, to face these things, knowing about them, knowing the risks, and knowing how to address them safely, rather than simply acting like they don't exist, or acting like kids are not going to get involved in them if they're not told about them.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good segue into what we're going to talk about next, so that's probably a good place to leave this.
Alright, then we will pick it up next time. See y'all then.
Bye!